In this video, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about self-care. You're new to physics, you're new probably to the high school, you're a freshman, and things are going to be really different. And it's going to be challenging. That's a fact. It's the hardest physics class that any freshman could take at Clearview. And you're going to need to know how to take care of yourself because every student that I've taught so far has experienced at least some setback, if not some major setbacks. And there's been tears, there's been frustration. And I think one of the biggest issues is that we don't always know how to handle it. A lot of you guys are the best and the brightest in the Clearview School District at Clearview Middle School. You guys got hundreds and everything almost. And not only that, but it came easy, right? Like things, you fill out the worksheet, you got 100 on the test, and up until this point, you had been the star. And now you're moving to a challenging class. And I want to start by saying that that's not a bad thing, and I'm not trying to upset you or scare you. What's happening is you're moving from a class called Science 8 into a class called AP Physics 1. And what's happening is we're actually matching and meeting you where you need to be challenged, because Science 8 includes all the students. It includes students at the general level, at the advanced level, at the honors level, and at the AP level. So, you were with a wide variety of students in science, and now you're going to be just with the students that are the highest achieving in math and science. So there's a lot that we have to unpack and deal with when it comes to, how the rigor and the challenge is going to change, how your grades are going to change, and how that's okay. So I want to start by explaining a little bit. I have some other videos that explain some of these things in more depth, but just a brief introduction. AP courses are meant to be college level courses, meaning that what we're teaching is basically what they'd be teaching in college at an introductory level. So that's number one. This is going to be a college class. Number two, you're taking AP Physics 1, which is a physics class. And physics is notorious for being hard, but it doesn't have to be, but it's going to be very different from Science 8. It uses math, algebra, to explain topics, and not only that, it requires that you explain things in words you're understanding. So it's not, you're not copying things that you've memorized, you're not plugging things into an equation and just getting the right answer. It's more than that. And you'll see, there's only so much I can tell you. You just have to experience it for yourself. But it's going to be much, much harder than that. And so be prepared for that. So you're taking an AP class, you're taking a physics class, and what's going to happen is I try to prepare my students for this every year, but it just doesn't always work. And I'm trying a little bit more this year. It's going to be very different from Science 8. So when you walk in and you start having problems to do or a test coming up in my class, it's going to be different, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to ask you to put in way more mental energy than you've ever had to do for Science 8. And that's not putting down Science 8, it's just different, all right? Now, having said all that, what's going to eventually happen is something's going to come up. So common things that I've seen from actual students, obviously some students don't do so well on their tests. They get bad grades. They get grades that are like 80 something, and then that's bad. And some of you are saying, yeah, oh my God, a 93 is bad, a 92 is bad. And I'm trying to tell you right now that lots of students get below those grades, and that's not because I think that physics is hard and everyone should have bad grades. It's because I'm grading you on something that's challenging. And so I want you to know that that's not a bad thing. I know you've been trained all of your life to understand that 100 is the best and 0 is the worst, and anywhere in the middle is basically second worst, right? And I need you to understand that when you get to college and you have to start thinking in terms of college now because you're going to be taking a college class. When you get to college, getting a B in a college class is okay. That means that you passed it and you did pretty well. Getting a C in a college class is still passing, which means you still get credit for the class. Getting an A in a college class is great, and that's exciting, but it's not required to get your degree. It's not required to get a job to have all A's in your classes all the time. And I know that there's those pressures on you, which is why I really want to talk about self-care. We're going to talk about all those other things about getting grades and what to do when you get a bad grade. But I just want to point out to you that things are going to happen in this class. You're going to get a bad grade. You're going to come into a place where you're challenged for time because a lot of you guys are going to be taking either another AP class, or you're going to be doing a sport, or you have to babysit, or you have to, do some other thing for, maybe you have a job, I don't know. So all of these things are going to put pressure on you. And so the question is, how do you deal with that pressure? Now, there's good ways to deal with it and there's bad ways to deal with it. The bad way to deal with it is to hold it all in, tell yourself that you are an AP student and you're an honor student and my parents are expecting this of me and I'm expecting this of me and I'm just going to do it. I got to do it. I got to deal with it, and that's all. That's bad. If you bottle that up, if you hold that in, you're not going to be successful because you're going to be constantly pressured and stressed, and that's going to reflect in your grades. It's actually bad for your grades. So you need to come up with a plan, and you need to understand what things actually make you feel less stressed. What things relieve pressure? So number one, the first thing is think about what actually relaxes you. When you are at home and you're doing something and you're feeling relaxed, what is it that you're doing that relaxes you? For me, I like playing video games. I like eating things. I like spending time with my family. Those things make me relaxed. But you have to be careful because some things don't actually make you relaxed when you think they would. For example, playing video games is tricky for me because some games relax me, but others don't. Games like, and this is just, from my perspective, but games like, Fortnite, League of Legends, games where there's this high competition and you have to perform and then there's people yelling at you because you're losing, that's not relaxing. That's stressful. So for me, not playing those games, but playing other games, maybe single player games, games that have, like nice music or whatever, that kind of stuff relaxes me. Similarly, like looking at your phone, maybe you think, oh yeah, if I just like scroll through my phone, that relaxes me. But take another look at that, because sometimes, like, for me, when I was scrolling through social media, it would actually kind of stress me out because you're seeing things, there's pressure to buy things. There's pressure that you want certain things because ads will come up and you're like, man, I want this. Or your friends will pop up and they'll be, vacationing at a really beautiful spot and you'll get stressed out because you're like, man, I wish I could be there, or I wish I could go back there. And so, or you see like some drama and you're getting all upset, or people are saying things that are making you upset. So just really think about what actually relaxes me. Not what I think relaxes me, but actually stresses me out. So that's the number one thing. Some other ideas, just to throw some things out. Petting your dog, playing with your animals, playing with your siblings, talking to your friends, talking to your family, taking a bath, doing your nails, putting on a mask, just taking a walk, going for a hike, going for a ride on your bike. Some people, I know there's some runners that I used to teach, they would just run, So what is it that relieves your stress? Now, once you figure that thing out, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be kind of crazy. And I've struggled with this myself, but it really works. You have to make time for those things. So even during the middle of the school year, when you have, homework, you have things to study for, you have pressures, you have your friends that are pressuring you, you have all these things you have to do. You have to do this, you have to do this. Make time to do those things. Personally, I felt like I shouldn't, play video games because I have so much to do. I need to do this. I need to get that done. And by not allowing yourself to ever have that time, you're not allowing yourself to de-stress. And it might feel selfish, or it might feel like you can't do it because you need to do other things. But the truth is that if you do these things, if you self-care, if you actually make time for yourself, it will actually improve all the other things. So here's just an example, and this is my own personal example, but when I'm stressed out, I would drag my feet on things, and things would take forever. Like if I needed to pay the bills, or if I needed to do something for work, I just wouldn't feel like it. I would get around to it. I would do it really slowly. And that's because I didn't want to do it. I was so stressed. But if I was like, all right, I'm going to play a half an hour on a video game, and then you feel a little bit better and you're like, all right, now I'm going to go tackle this thing. And you actually get through it much faster. You get through it better. When you're relaxed, you test better. So if you're like, no, I have to study. Sometimes, think about this. Sometimes studying, staying up late, not getting any sleep because you're studying is actually more harmful than just going to bed. Because if you took that test and you're relaxed, you're stress-free, you might do a lot better than if you've been putting so much pressure on yourself, you're not getting any sleep, all you've been doing is looking at the textbook and looking at your notes. You're actually going to do worse. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but I would recommend, if you are feeling super stressed, you're crying, you don't know how you're going to pass this test, at some point you really just need to put the book away and go to sleep at a regular time and just relax and do what relaxes you. And that will help sometimes better than just you cram, especially for a physics test. Don't cram for one of those. And we'll talk about that later. But the point is, self-care is super important. And I'm trying to emphasize this because honors and AP students, which is what you guys are, experience some, at Clearview at least, experience some of the highest stress levels and pressures. And if you don't know how to deal with that, you're going to drown figuratively. And I don't want that to happen. Of course, you always have plenty of resources at your disposal. If you do feel like you're drowning, remember, I'm here. I know we haven't met yet probably, but I'm here. You can talk to me. There's guidance counselors at the school that you can talk to. You can talk to old middle school teachers if you're more comfortable with them because you've already have them and you know who they are. You can talk to your parents, hopefully. You can talk to a sibling, hopefully. You can talk to your friends. And remember, you guys are in this together. And I would recommend building some bonds when you're in AP Physics 1 together so that you guys actually help each other. You guys should be a resource to each other. And try to push that negativity away. Like instead of just being like, oh yeah, AP Physics sucks, I hate it, and then you just go back and forth talking about that, be more of a positive influence. Be like, yeah, I know AP Physics sucks, but you know what? We got this. Let's sit down. Let's plan some time to study together. You know what I mean? I really need to stress that, this transition from Science 8 to AP Physics 1 is stressful. And you guys are making a choice to take this plunge into something that's really challenging, and it's exciting, but it's also really stressful. And I just want you to know that you need to start thinking about a plan for how to address the stress and the pressure that you're going to be experiencing. And the other thing that I'm aware of is, you have pressure from yourself, I'm sure, because you want to do the best you can do. You want to get good grades, and you might think that college is only going to accept you if you get the best grades, and I understand that perspective. And I also know that parents can put a lot of pressure too. And just understand that your grades and the things that you do in school do have an effect on your life, but not as much as I think you probably would be putting pressure on yourself for. I don't remember the grades that I got when I was in high school. I'm here. I have a career and I'm doing just fine. There's lots of people that don't even go to college and have successful careers making way more money than I make, if that's what you're worried about. So everything will be okay. And I just need you to know that it'll be all right. And if it feels like it isn't, reach out to someone and try to do your stressfully relieving activity, like playing a game, talking to somebody, going for a walk, something like that. All right. So what I want you to do before you come into school is to think about what things relax you, and make sure you have that ready, and make sure you plan time for that throughout the whole year. See you soon.